Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone, the ones who are here and the ones who are online. And we are delighted today to have Wendy Roberts with us at the Alianza. Wendy is right now working at the University of Minnesota in Morris. And in fact, her visit was possible thanks to Alina Hill, who is a former Alianza teacher, and met Wendy while she was participating in the Teacher in Residence program some years ago. So thanks, Alina, for making this connection and for making this possible today. And well, you'll hear from Wendy about her experience, but she has vast experience in teaching, and she speaks not only English but also Spanish and Portuguese, right? And Italian. So, okay, really cosmopolitan educator. And she'll be talking about a very interesting project that she is actually implementing in her workplace. So, thanks, Wendy, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
It's my pleasure. So, as Rosario mentioned, yeah, my connection and the reason I'm here is because Alina, she was, I call her your ambassador to United States in Minnesota, and it was interesting because I was visiting her classroom at the Liceo, and the kids were like, "Are you an ambassador?" And I said, "Well, you become an ambassador the minute you leave your country and go to another place and represent the people that you're coming from." So they, get it. So that was kind of interesting for the students. And so, 2011, we had the pleasure to have Alina, and she was doing a lot of work around, as the people who lived in the partnership knows how that works. And we were lucky to have her for a few days. And it was a wonderful opportunity to have this kind of firsthand information about Uruguay and what Uruguay does. And it was lovely. We had a lot of people coming. Ana Hildegar, who back then was member of the partnership, was the director of the Latin American Area Studies discipline. And so we combined efforts. So Vamos Juntos is our Spanish club, and it was a wonderful opportunity for them to learn about Uruguay. She has an impressive presentation and all the adding and Q&A. And so at the end was just wonderful. The students really enjoyed it, and also people from the community came to learn. So that was then, and so today we're going to be talking about some of the work that I've been doing with my students and the community in Morris, Minnesota. So the title is Engaging University Students with the Local Hispanic Community, and I'll be telling you why this happened. So Morris is a small town. I work at the University of Minnesota. The University of Minnesota is a big campus. It's a big university. We have the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul, the main campus, and then we have yet 4 more campuses in the University of Minnesota Morris. One is the Liberal Art College, and it's in the rural area. We also have Duluth. It's also participating here at the Alliance, but it's from there, and that's also a big school, grad school, medical school, and then we have one in Crookston, and the office there in rural issues and economy, and then we have the Mayo one that's with medicine, and that's kind of one newest one's in Rochester. So this is kind of to me, it's a wonderful thing to be associated with the University of Minnesota. And so that's what we have here. So here's what we had in Morris, and the only person here that knows about Morris is Alina. So the tiny little town. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes away from the cities, and it's very close to the other 2 states. Where on the north we have Canada, and then we have North Dakota and South Dakota. Many of our students come in the majority come from the Twin Cities and also from the states around, and mostly from Minnesota. So, but I was saying before, I think Alina also went to Fargo, which is in North Dakota, but it's the sister city of Moorhead, and so that's one place that people who love Fergus Falls. Did you go to Fergus Falls?
No.
No. But this is how we get there. So you can see that we just step out of a house and we ended up in South Dakota. So that's our location. The population of Morris is 5,000. And in the last 10 years, we've been having an influx of Hispanic workers, majority from Mexico. And this is kind of an interesting population because not only they are Hispanics, but they also are graduates from colleges in Mexico. They are vets and soil technicians and engineers. And so it's kind of a different population to work with. When I arrived to Morris in 1999, it was a small group of workers, but they were like seasoned workers that would come and go, and they were on skill, and they were just kind of working for a little bit. But this is kind of a big change that started around 2010. So we have a diverse economy, many farms. The large areas that want to bring in those Mexicans into town. We have several private companies, public school, and a big hospital, and our branch of the University of Minnesota. So at the university, we only have undergrads, and after teaching, research, we have a big mission with service, and that's what I get all the support for the type of program that I'm doing. We also count with have an office of community engagement that has been extremely supportive. Really, like I have all these ideas, but I just didn't know how to do them, and the director there has been instrumental in telling us what to do and please the administration as we were doing our service work. So I teach lots of Spanish courses, but I'm also the leader of many of these service programs with the Hispanic community in particular. We do have here and there people from Russia and Bulgaria, but the majority are from Mexico or Central America. And I thought, well, this is a wonderful opportunity to expose the students to native speakers, right? You're always kind of looking for that. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, this is great, let's try to do it. And so in my case, for these two elements for a good service project, there's the educational experience for the students and try to use useful to the community. So whatever we do has to come up work both ways. The benefit has to be for both of the groups. And so I will tell you how we got organized this English as a second language program, which did not exist in town. Normally, the big cities will have a community education program which offers a little bit of English. But here we only had once a week, and it was totally unstructured. It was just computer and volunteers, trying to teach some English. After that, we also created what we call the Jane Addams project, and I'll tell you a little bit more about who she was. And then other projects that also provide an opportunity for these Hispanics to feel better about participating in these activities, right? Because you don't want them to feel like, oh, so I'm like, can you pee? I'm going to be taking my time and like. So when we think about the communities in Morris, we think about UMM, it's the biggest employer there, the Latino community, and the lifelong Morris residents, right? So the academic community is always kind of open for these kind of programs. They think this is good, particularly when I try to sell it, what I did to my chancellor is, this is a wonderful opportunity for my students who cannot go abroad to have an experience with native speakers. And, I have to explain the profile of this Latino community. And then to convince also the lifelong Morris residents that the fact that they were there in town was a good thing for the whole community, and it is, in fact, a wonderful thing that's happening to us. So the idea is that we continue trying to connect these three communities that we have. So how did this started? So this is 8, and Alina did meet him, was one of the hosts, took her out for dinner or lunch. And this is Juan, and so he also is he's a vet and from Guanajuato, Mexico. And my students, like in every college town, they go to the bar, and there were the Mexicans, and they started a conversation. Abe is fluent in Spanish, one of my students. And so they start making these connections, and they were not complaining, but they were not happy with the idea that they couldn't move with English, learning more English. That they wanted to be able to talk to everybody at work. They only spoke with people that were from Mexico too, and they didn't have many opportunities. So so they came up with this idea. They call it Plan Amistad, and it was going to provide them with some English classes. They needed a place, and so they got in touch with me, and so we illegally got into the classrooms. I opened up doors and made copies, but when we turned around, we had 2 levels and a few people, and then we had families with kids, so we needed daycare, and then we needed another room. And I said, we can't do these anymore. We have to find a way to get organized. And they were kind of panicking. Abe was about to graduate, and he really wanted to have this done. So we, of course, then we got in touch with my good friend, the director of the Office of Community Engagement. She said, well, that we need to come out clean. And we had to kind of talk to the administrators and see if that's okay that we open up the classrooms. And it wasn't that hard to sell, because we really weren't taking anything out of the university. We just needed a space. And every classroom is equipped with screens and computers, so we just kind of using a little bit longer those spaces. And much later, a budget was created for materials, and then to another group that I also created with a Fulbright, a research Fulbright that came to Morris, worked in creating funds, with a dinner fundraising to buy material and have it available, because it was important. Your old teachers, the book is not everything, right? It's what you do with the book, and we needed more material. So the way it works for us is that the volunteers get 10 hours of training from the Minnesota Leadership Council to become English language tutors, and that's free to them. If you want to buy the book, it's $10. The book has a lot of resources they can use. But the program is quite good. It's extenuating because it's 10 hours in 2 days. And then they need to observe the classroom from veteran seasoned teachers, and then they get the certificate, which I think it's not TESOL, it's not anything huge, but it's something. And we at the beginning it was just me, observe the students and give them some feedback and help them. So the volunteer instructors, the majority are minors and based in Spanish, and that's not a requirement. Explain to them, as you know, that you don't need to know the language of the person that you're teaching to be able to teach them English. But for the beginning courses, it's always nice to be able to create community. Hello, how are you? How's your family? Just at the beginning. And of course, then it's total immersion. So that worked out well. So this one team meets once a week, and then they plan the lesson. Like I said, I give them a lot of advice, and we have these workshops. Here's what a lesson plan looks like, examples with the lessons, just how you can do it. A lot of visuals. We kind of give them a little flavor of what learning is. The different type of learners that they are there. We explained about the profile of these students. They work every day, many hours in the winter, super cold. They miss their families. They're exhausted when they come. And they work with cows, the majority, and so they really want to wash themselves out of the smell. And so we work with that. The majority only teaches once. They always have an assistant or more, and that's kind of part of the observation process too, as they are going to get the certificate. And then the classes start 7:30 till 9. So we want them to be there 7:15, to get everything ready and then teach. And it goes really well. Right now we have between 50 and 70 of these Hispanics. And they come to class at 7:30 or 8:45. It's interesting because I always tell them we need to finish at 8:45. They're exhausted. They're there and they want more. And then we go up until 9 o'clock. So this is kind of the model that we're being established, and it's working quite well. This is just for you to have some idea. So we have a mix of female and male in many cases, the women also have gone to college. We have accountants, lawyers, but they come under the visa of their husbands, and they just cannot work. So this is really wonderful for them to be able to move on. And I'm in the middle of trying to work a shadow program. So when some of these women that have other careers can at least come to the classrooms and listen to English and listen in their fields, what the lingo is for their careers. That's still, it's a state university. It's actually private, and even to sit down to be able to listen to their own meetings. So you see, we have lovely facilities to do that. He's one of my students. Now he's at Peace Corps in Mozambique. Sometimes the kids don't want to stay away from the mamas, so they stay there. Yes, the majority are husbands or just men. So we do have training for the students that are going to be in charge of the students. We have two groups, one for the little ones and one for the older school age. And there is not just like they're watching them. This is just watching for the school age students. There's a whole program, of literacy program, mostly cultural in English. They are going to school and they speak English beautifully after a few weeks compared to the parents, but they have these gaps that because they're now being raised by Americans don't have. Like tales. Yesterday I was visiting Alina's English class and we were talking about one of the most important tales in the United States. And you think, well, what's the value of that? Well, we don't know where these kids are going to be going, and one day they might be taking a test, or the question will come that they are working. They get to be in jeopardy, and the question is, what's the name of the big guy from the meeting? So that's really wonderful to have these they get paid. The university has funds, and the students have to qualify. They have to pass the test. They have to be trained. They have to have criminal background done before they can be close to the students. And they do get paid because this is kind of based on financial aid. So the students that qualify, they don't have enough money, they can do this work. And then for the little ones, we do ask for students that can speak the language. That's good. So at the end of the semester, we always have a celebration. That's one of our big things. One of the churches in town has been wonderful to us because on top of having the Mondays and Thursday classes, we also have Fridays from 1 to 3, and that's for the women that don't want to get the kids out of the house. It's freezing in Minnesota in the winter time, and so they say, no, I'm not going. So we have this space, and that's a church, and that's what we have our banquet. And so this is wonderful. I love to talk about things like, this is Luz Velasquez. She's a teacher from Mexico, but didn't know any English when she came, and now she volunteers in the classroom, and she does reading in English, but in Spanish, but she's also speaking a lot of English, and it's just wonderful to see those cases where the kids. She's also a vet, and together with one of my students, when she came, she was about to send an article on she's in agronomy, and it was about apples, and so one of my students helped her to translate the article before she submitted. So that was kind of this incredible, wonderful story. So it can happen when you realize these opportunities. She now is a resident. She's came with her husband under his visa, and now she works at the school. Just 2 jobs. She works at the cafeteria in the school, and she also works at the hospital. So it's just wonderful to see them all kind of moving forward. So one of the things that I tried, the most simple way to talk to my instructors who they don't have any educational background or much less teaching languages, is to base, and get themselves guided by this, what we call the 5 C's. And this is the American Council for Teaching Foreign Languages. And just as kind of a visual to explain to them how important it is to implement those as they are teaching in the classroom, every possibility that they have, in the lesson plans, I provide them with many simple ways to fill them up, but always paying attention to these incredible things, As long as they're not Chinese or Japanese or Russian, so it's easy, to make comparisons, looking for those comments, and then also other practices, building the community, how we connect, with them, cultures, absolutely, and all the connections that there are in between the languages and the culture too. And of course, communication is important in that, as you know, as English teachers, that's the most important thing these days. Grammar, of course, is important, but let's just kind of get to what you can communicate and have a regular life when you're in another country. So part of those 5Cs is the culture, and in my case, for what I do with my students, I pay attention to these. So it feels like gain knowledge and understanding of other cultures, and that's very hard for people. And so they are divided in standards. So, like I said, this is the work that they do, and they think I try to convince them that this is not charity. They are gaining a lot out of this, and they are studying the culture and the language in the classroom, my classrooms, right? But they are really kind of being hands-on as they are doing this job. And it's hard for them to put in words, what products are, when they gain this perspective of the culture that they're studying. And this is kind of like, to me, a win-win situation. This is just like a wonderful. The community standard, so this is the part for many teachers, and then imagine for you here in Uruguay, it's the hardest thing. How do you present your students with a community other than if they go there or an American comes here, and that's still very limited because one person has, an incredible amount of experiences, and it's very hard not to present with the stereotype. I like to see here that Minnesota, and you have the connection to Minnesota because having lived in many, many countries, many states and countries too, Minnesota is one of the best places to be from. People generally wonderful, open people. So with this community part, like I said, standard, it's difficult, right? How do we present that outside of the classroom, for example, for you, right? You might think a movie would do, right? Reading literature, but nothing like actually having, gonna move it out. And like in Montevideo, also, there is a Latino community well represented. And, having that, it's not something that happens every place. So this is good. And the other stuff up here, how do we get our students to actually use those experiences, linguistics and cultural, outside of the classroom? And so this is what happened. We go to the supermarket, right? And there is Jose and Juan and Jose Rafael, and then, how are you? I'm doing well. How are the kids doing at school? Actually, if you can help me with this, I have an appointment with my teacher, and I'm kind of nervous because I really want to understand what everything is happening. So, geez, we're talking about lifelong and then outside of the classroom. This is happening in front of our eyes. So I don't have a cough, and I'm under the weather or over the weather. I don't know.
It's just like,
and then we have until I want to leave time for questions too. So this is what this Jane Addams Democracy Project looks like. This is kind of like, literacy, energy, culture, teach, learn, Nicole is fine there, community, and celebration. And you can see with the work that I've been doing, all those things are represented there. In fact, when we had our first fundraising dinner, and we saw this sharing bread, one of my students who came from the cities said, "Oh my gosh, this is like Jane Addams." I said, "This is like Jane Addams." He said, "What are you talking about?" I didn't know who Jane Addams was. And she said, "This is just like Jane Addams." And so I said, well, we talked, what's going on? So she was from the cities, and there's a college there that has a social school, social work school, and it's called Jane Addams. So they have internships, and Minneapolis has a big community of Hmong and Somalis and Latinos too. And so what they do is that they open up libraries, and they have English classes, and they have this circles of conversation, and they are like being helped to get the driver's license, pass the citizenship test and things like that. And it's kind of like community, the college, so all these what was happening at that day and what we tried to do with the ESL program. So we established that, and then here's what this is all about. And again, it really reflects what we've been doing. It reflects, this is our students, the community, get together to do public work and learning, and it's community-based. It's inspired by the vision of democracy, productive citizenship, public education held by the principles and philosophy of Jane Addams, who created this whole house in Chicago. The house still exists, the museum, and basically during that time, Jane Addams, who was a philanthropist, and he was from a very rich family, tried to welcome and find a better fit for the immigrants that were coming from all over. And she went above and beyond, welcoming them, and then trying to establish that it wasn't like they weren't going there to learn, that they came empty-handed, that they have so much to share. And so that's where this philosophy comes from, that, you're not here to learn from us. You're here for us to learn from you. And that's what that teaching and learning is all together. So it's a wonderful principle to live by, right? And so I love that philosophy. So like I said before, this Oxford school, created that JL School of Democracy. Sadly, no, they closed for lack of funds. That doesn't exist anymore, but they inspired not only the program in my school, but many other programs. Like I said, in Minneapolis, they serve mostly Hmong and East African Latino population. In all the projects that have to do with community, conversation circles, and that's nicely well built. I have a different program, because of what we're doing, but it's basically based on the same. So at UMM, right, started in 2011. So we were there when we were working this out. So 3 students, one of them that was screaming, "This is like Jane Addams," approached the Office of Community Engagement, and we started this group. It's not an official student club, because I turned it into an internship. So it's just 1 credit, and they have to go through 3 interviews. And basically, what I'm trying to do is to measure their intercultural, abilities. Kind of to confront them with their own culture and the many cultures they come from, and kind of see how they developed. And first interview, throw some questions, and they have to write journals, and they have to create the activities. But it's tricky, right? Because we're saying that we're all teachers and we're all learners, right? So it's not like they're gonna have the role of a teacher. You're gonna listen to what I'm gonna say. Here's my lesson plan. It's a totally different game. And so it's been tricky, but it's been wonderful. I think what catches the whole spirit is those the philosophy. Everyone's a teacher, everyone's a learner. So that's the tricky part. And then we honor all cultures. And sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because these kids are already very much into service. They love Spanish, they love the culture. But then again, that's not a requirement. They don't have to be Spanish students. They could be anything. In fact, I had Chinese internships, which was wonderful, because, and I'll tell you what, citizenship means making contributions to the community. So, it's true that we think in terms of, well, yeah, I want to do contributions to the community, right? But, have it really embedded in you and move out from the university and stop thinking about my curriculum. Oh, I used to be a star. My curriculum if I'm an intern in Jane Addams, right? And then I like this. Change can happen when people work together, right? So you can think about all the changes that have happened in our community because of these initiatives. But I keep saying my favorite phrase is that we're still in diapers. This takes a lot of work and time, but I've seen already the product. So again, we use the same one of the same classrooms, and this is kind of a part of the conversation. We do activities that physically kind of connect the phone. You can see, for example, these with thoughts and words. Some people want to participate. They are wonderful people. This is not being staged. I took that picture and they were just doing the guidance. Say, okay, smile now. He's one of our food fights here too. She's in the social work grad school right now. And, you know, they don't have that space where they can just be themselves. You know, they brought the instruments. They work very hard. So this is not English classes, although we inject a lot of English and a lot of Spanish from the other side, right, for my students. But it's just a lot of learning going on, but it's just like, you know, this is social time. This is once a week from 7 to 9. And so they come and have a good time. We're trying to make the space ours. So we have, you know, like signs, how it works that we've done together, but it's hard, right? It's not a classroom. But this is an anthropology professor who spent a lot of time in Mexico, and she comes to our Jane Addams, part of the circle of conversation. She's psychologist, married to one of our psychology professors. You know, she's old with the kids, but she's always been wonderful to really participate. So they are one-on-one interaction. In this particular case, they are doing what we call the warm-up activity, where it's like this. It's called the speed dating. They didn't come with us like yes. Now remember, I'm from Venezuela. I've been here for 30 years, 31 years in the United States. But you know, they come with these things that I don't know that kids know. So that's wonderful. I like this picture because I talked about the different communities in our university and the outside of the university. So these two kids are Native Americans. So the university is built on the grounds of a school in the 50s that was like an intern, no, how do you call those? Yeah, it was an institution where they brought the Native Americans to the area to make them, you know, clean them culturally. A disaster, right? So, but a way for us to wash that terrible past. There was an agreement, and this campus, the students come, the Native American, we have 1/8 of blood Native American, your tuition is free. So, so that's a pretty big part of our community, and so it was wonderful to have them involved because it's a whole different perspective, right? That these kids have as a college students, a member of these communities, and it's just great connections there too. So one of our activities at the beginning of the semester, it gets cold right away. Students were asking, "When does it get cold there? Like September?" No, October. We have a bonfire in the park by the Terre River. But that day, it became so cold that we said, "No, we have to cancel this. It's impossible for us to be out there." So the students came up with the idea to have a YouTube movie with the bonfire going. We had roll s'mores, you know, the marshmallow with the chocolate and the thing, and we had a great time. So we're outside, it's free, so we have to feel that. The students come out, the angels come with great ideas about what to do to decorate. You know, it's I don't know, but you always are looking to belong, right? And so little things that they've done, you know, it makes them feel that they are part of. So this is kind of one of the activities that they do. I already told you what happens in the typical evening. There's a warm-up activity where everybody kind of winds down, and then they have topics or presentations. You know, we have the warm-up. You know, sometimes we have the trio. So the presentations are done by the students and in connection with some of the participants. This time there was a karaoke thing we was put together. There was a salsa presentation by one of our members. You know, he taught us about casino salsa. I never even heard about that. It's very complicated. So we all kind of, I know how to dance salsa, but not what he was doing. He's one of my internships from India. That's one of the warm-up activities with Namonia. Finish up first wins. The conversation circles, like I said, they're very important. The questions are in English and Spanish. So it's a reinforcement for the Hispanics to see what they're saying, you know, and then the students speak Spanish. And like I said, sometimes participants, well, the community members, for example, they don't speak Spanish, so they need to have the English. It's just wonderful. Sometimes the education discipline, oh yeah, that'd be good for students to be there. And they send them to me and they become part of this. Here's one of the presentations, one of the beginning presentations is talk about Minnesota idiomatic expressions that they keep hearing in the street and they don't know what they mean, but at the same time, they tell us about their own expressions and things that they hear out there. Also, they are from different places in Mexico. They're not all from the same place. And it's amazing. You say that like that? Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's so incredible and wonderful exchange. We have some of the Minnesota for cute. You know, they said everything. You know, say they need just for cute, for cuties, or you bet. And they're trying to look in the dictionary. What does that mean? Oh, that's different. That is a criticism. You know, like you say, oh, there comes Salina. See what she's wearing? That's different. You don't want to hear that here and there. Here's them. I know. See, this was wonderful when we had these presentations done by them. Like I said, no, in one case, somebody presented, tell us in a very small summary what they did for their thesis defense as they graduated. And so that's kind of like a wonderful activity, you know, about how the school works at the level of college. So another activity that I conduct, and I bring them because they always, how can we pay you for all your these, you know, the English classes? You know, yeah, be there. Come to the classes, move forward, and come to the Spanish Day. We speak Spanish with my students. So I get them to do that sometimes. We meet once a week, and I'm always there. And we talk about anything and everything. There's no agenda. But sometimes we have this native speakers, and it's wonderful. I know you do that here, so that's great too. So that's La Mesa. So this is Jordan, 20. He loves Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina. He came young, that's very young, as exchange student, and he speaks like an Argentinian. We also, through another group, they were asking for other things to do, you know, the things that they used to do back in their country. So we organized a soccer league for them. And so for that, we talked to the community education building, not the university, and we got that done. And now there is a tournament with I don't know how many teams. So this is wonderful to see those things. You know, you kind of get the babies and go. Also, out of these, the Latino support group got inspired by the support group I had when I came to this country a long time ago. It was a place where they can discuss their issues. You know, I arranged speakers to come and talk about things that are important to them, you know, like school issues, transportation, doctors. So it's really wonderful. So they were fundraising money there. This is the gallery in town. And at the same time, what happened was one of my students created a project, which was taking pictures of the members of the community, the Hispanic community. These beautiful pictures with say, you know, it was great. So they sell a lot of tamales, which are delicious. This is one of my families too. So it was like this. This is the project. And they got a grant to get this perfect, wonderful framed pictures and they exhibit in several places. And Montevideo was one of the places that they exhibit. And you know, you just kind of portray, you know, the importance of how positive all this, you know, family, post cultures, you know, multicultural kind of. So this is Yuri, also another one of the students that came with the idea about Plan Amistad, and this is Cifrari. She came in 20 on 8 or 9. So she's now, she works at the high school. She's one of the directors of the preschool, the bilingual preschool that also gets established, you know, as a kind of result of having this positive view about being bilingual. And this is our community dinner. It's our largest event. So here's, you know, you see members of the community and all the, you know, professors. So of course we have to have right? That was done at the Legion, a small place. Now we have a huge, bigger place. So the message here: what is a good service? What are the elements that they should have? In my case, I feel extremely fortunate to have this venue for my students, and it's proved to be wonderful. They go and compete for many scholarships, and they compete, and they don't do it for that. But at the end, you know, so what do you do in your free time? Those interviewers asked, and they talked about this. They become, you know, a larger person than they were before they did any of these. So, good education tips for students, truly useful to the community, right? And so I said, they are in diapers, and I think there's a lot more to do, but I think this has been a wonderful journey. Yeah, a lot more to do. Thank you. Questions? Everyone, I'm happy to answer.
Do you have any questions?
We now have a different chancellor, but I know at the beginning of these, the chancellor was wondering, so these companies, the milk producers, and so are they doing anything, because, we are creating this place and we've given some resources to welcome the Hispanics in town, and they should be also kind of trying to do their part. So we couldn't get a clear communication with them. I do have a good relationship with the human resources guy. This has become an enormous thing. We're talking about the percentage of workers, the immigrants, Hispanics in town just jumped, 120%. The schools, also. It's not like it's becoming a burden, but, also to help them to integrate better and to create this good atmosphere about having these Hispanics in town, because the reality is in Minnesota, the rural towns are empty. And so this is wonderful to have this injection of wonderful people to come to work and add to the city. But so just now, the dairies are created a group, it's called Connections, and they have like a welcome wagon, and they would never say, oh, that's because of our duty, we don't want to be kind of left. But I think it's opening up, ways to do their part, right? Because the big change is happening in the city is because they are offering those jobs. And it's true that they pay them and they get whatever they want from them. But I think, that social factor is really important for things to go well. So to have this very serious foundation, and this is a partnership. This is not anybody taking advantage of anyone. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Very interesting project. Okay, and it takes a lot of new. There are many elements there, but if you consider only one characteristic a person would need to have to go for a project like this, what would you say this characteristic would be?
Patience and also a lot of energy. And I didn't do this by myself. I have to give a lot of credit to my students and the director of the community engagement office. She's been wonderful. I mean, like I said, I have all this energy. Imagine, like in a bag full of cats, I want to get out of there. And I say, we can do this, and we can do that. Calm down. I want to do this. I have this. And she really kind of canalized all these. And the students do, because they are there doing the work. And they say, we can do these, and we can do that. So one of the things that we also did was to have a fund, so some of the students that are the lead teachers can apply for, and they get a little bit of money. But I think that's it. Have a good heart and lots of energy, because it takes a lot of energy. I was telling Alina that I only get back home once a week after teaching, because I have all these things going. There's a lot of work at the beginning of the semester each time. The observations for the Addams, that's will take a lot of work. But it's wonderful to work with these students and see them progressing in every aspect of their lives. And of course, you think, oh yeah, the linguistic thing is the most important. No, I think it's everything. It's everything. How could I not be happy that they are in connection and moving forward with the language?
Thank you very much. Thank you.